Have you ever been told, just be yourself, and felt like it was impossible? Like the moment you try, everything goes wrong? You're not alone. Millions of people struggle with this every single day. But what if I told you that the advice to be yourself might actually be the trap that's holding you back? Sounds crazy, right? But stick with me, because by the end of this video, you'll see why the very thing society tells you to do could be sabotaging your life. Think about it. How often have you met someone who is just themselves and seemed effortlessly magnetic? You might even admire them secretly. But when you try the same thing, it falls flat. You wonder, what's wrong with me? The truth is, there's nothing wrong with you. The problem isn't you. It's the psychology behind the advice. Let me break it down. Be yourself sounds simple, but here's the twist. The version of yourself you bring to every situation is filtered through fear, past experiences, and what you think others expect from you. You're not showing your authentic self, you're showing a shadow of it, a version that's safe, that won't get rejected. And that's where the trap begins, because when you say, "I'm just being me," you might actually be being the least effective version of yourself. Think of it like this. Imagine a musician who's amazing in private, but the moment they perform on stage, they freeze. Are they not being themselves? Technically, yes, but the version they're showing the world is dictated by fear. The real self only comes out when you understand your psychology, and this is exactly what most people miss. Here's a secret psychologists and high performers know. Authenticity is not about showing everything you are. It's about strategically showing the best version of yourself in each situation. That doesn't make it fake, it makes it smart. And yes, it's entirely possible to do this while still feeling real. In fact, that's when people will start to see you as magnetic. Let me ask you something. Have you ever noticed how children seem effortlessly themselves? They run, they laugh, they speak their mind without second guessing. But as we grow, social conditioning teaches us to filter, to hide, to protect. So when adults say, just be yourself, they forget that yourself is now a heavily edited version influenced by anxiety, fear, and self-doubt. That's the trap. And here's the kicker. The more you try to force being yourself, the more awkward it becomes. It's like trying to squeeze into a shirt 2 sizes too small. You think you're being authentic, but you're actually creating tension, discomfort, and social friction. People notice it, even if they can't put their finger on why. So what's the solution? First, recognize the difference between your internal self and the self you present. Second, ask yourself, which version of me will get the results I want in this moment? And third, learn to craft that version deliberately, without shame. It's not manipulation, it's mastery. And it works. Here's a story. I once met someone at a party who was unbearably shy. He told me, "I'm just being myself, I don't want to fake it." And yes, he was being himself. But the self he was showing was nervous, withdrawn, almost invisible. Then he learned to show courage, humor, and curiosity, the version of himself that naturally draws people in. Within weeks, his social life transformed. Suddenly, people wanted to be around him. Same person, different presentation. That's the psychological hack no one talks about. And let's look at a real-world example, Steve Jobs. You think he just was himself and everyone loved him? Not exactly. Jobs crafted his persona with intention. He highlighted his vision, his intensity, and yes, sometimes his intensity even intimidated people, but he knew which version of himself to show to get results, and it worked on a massive scale. That's the power of mastering your self-presentation. Here's something most people don't realize. Being yourself is a shortcut, a platitude. It's easy advice, but it ignores nuance. True success comes from understanding human psychology. It's about knowing how to balance your internal truth with the way the world perceives you. And here's the exciting part. Once you get this, doors open effortlessly. Opportunities that once seemed impossible now feel natural. Let's get even deeper. There's a psychological phenomenon called the illusion of transparency. It means we overestimate how much people notice our flaws, fears, and awkwardness. So when you think everyone sees the version of you you hate, they probably don't. Most people are too busy worrying about their own authentic selves. This is why strategic authenticity works. It lets you show what matters without overexposing yourself. Ask yourself, do you want to be liked by everyone? Or do you want to be respected, trusted, and remembered? Because those are very different things. And here's the truth. If you focus solely on being yourself in a literal sense, you risk being liked in a lukewarm way by people who don't matter, while missing the chance to impress those who do. Here's a tip. Start small. Identify one situation where you feel stuck, maybe a date, a presentation, or a social event. Then deliberately show a version of yourself that's confident, engaging, and positive. Notice the reaction. I promise you it will feel different. More energy, more connection. And guess what? You weren't lying. You were being strategic. The trap of being yourself is seductive because it feels moral. It implies honesty, integrity, simplicity. Who would argue with that? But here's the thing, life isn't about moralizing your personality. Life is about results. Relationships, influence, success, fulfillment, they require a blend of authenticity and strategy. The people who understand this are the ones who thrive. Let's talk about storytelling because this is where it gets really interesting. Stories create connection, not raw authenticity. Even the most charismatic people don't just spout their inner thoughts. They craft narratives that resonate. Think of your life as a story. Which chapters do you want people to read first? Which scenes leave them wanting more? This is the core of strategic self-presentation. Have you ever noticed how influencers and content creators seem magnetic online? It's not magic, it's mastery of persona. They show the parts of themselves that inspire, entertain, or educate, while filtering out doubt, fear, or negativity. That's why people follow them. You can do the same in your life offline. It's just a matter of learning the rules. Here's a question. What's stopping you from doing this right now? Fear? Habit? The belief that authenticity equals literal transparency? All of those are illusions. And here's the liberating truth. Once you see through the trap, everything changes. Your interactions, your confidence, your influence, even your happiness. And this works in all areas: career, romance, friendship, you name it. Imagine approaching someone you admire with deliberate charm, warmth, and curiosity. That's not pretending, that's being the best version of yourself. Imagine leading a team not as your shy self, but as the confident, decisive leader you can be. Results change, respect grows, and influence skyrocket. Even emotions can be strategically expressed. Think about humor, timing, intensity, showing vulnerability in a controlled way. These are all tools, and yet they feel natural when done correctly. That's the beauty of understanding human psychology. You're free to be yourself, but without the unnecessary risk of self-sabotage. Now, you might be wondering, is this manipulation? Only if your intent is selfish or deceitful. But if your intent is connection, growth, and authenticity in a meaningful way, it's ethical, powerful, and transformative. The people who thrive are the ones who understand the rules and play the game consciously. Here's a mind-bending insight. Even the advice to just be yourself comes from someone who has unconsciously learned the social game. They think it's effortless, but it's not. They've internalized strategies without realizing it, and now you have the chance to learn them consciously, rapidly, and with precision.
So here's the takeaway. Being yourself is not about literal self-expression. It's about strategic authenticity. It's about understanding who you are, who you want to be seen as, and how to bridge the two. When you master this, life stops feeling like a trap. Opportunities open, relationships deepen, confidence grows, and yes, your real self finally shines through. Think about the people you admire most. Are they loved because they are just themselves, or because they've mastered the art of showing the best version of themselves at the right time? The answer is obvious, and now it's your turn. Stop falling for the psychological trap. Stop hiding behind fear and indecision. Learn to present yourself intentionally without losing integrity. Be strategic, be bold, be magnetic. And one day, people won't just like you, they'll remember you. So ask yourself this: are you ready to step out of the trap? To stop hiding behind a version of yourself that doesn't work? To become a person who can truly influence, connect, and thrive? The choice is yours, and if you start today, the results could change everything. Because here's the ultimate truth: the real you isn't trapped by fear, insecurity, or society's advice. The real you is powerful, magnetic, and capable of achieving anything. You just need to learn how to show it. Every interaction becomes an opportunity. Every conversation becomes a chance to influence. Every day becomes a stage where your best self can shine. And when that happens, being yourself isn't a trap anymore. It's a superpower. So here's your challenge. Tomorrow, pick one situation, one moment where you'll consciously show the version of yourself that is confident, engaging, and magnetic. Watch what happens. Notice how people respond. Notice how you feel. And then keep going. Because mastery of self-presentation isn't a trick, it's a skill. One that can transform your life in ways you never imagined. And finally, remember this: the trap of being yourself exists only if you let it. Awareness, strategy, and deliberate action break it completely. You have the power, you have the choice, and now there's nothing standing between you and the best version of yourself. It's time to stop being trapped. It's time to start being powerful.